All right, so the meeting is being recorded for those joining. So this is the Economic Development Commission meeting of Thursday, June 1st, 2023. We're meeting in the Old Town Hall conference room as well as via Zoom. We have in attendance today Mr. Chair Kevin Lesko. We have Justin Beck, Commissioner. Online, we have Commission members Matt Rappaport, Colin Colburn, Ken Hockhauser, and Steve Rosado. And also joining us today, we have John Angel from Angel Commercial, and our guests, Nick Tamburino, Adam Robbins, and Anne Marie Zamba, representing Green Thumb Industries. We'll get to them in just a minute. Oh, I will also have Don Peterson, Commission Member Emeritus. Sorry, Don. I introduced those in the room earlier. Jared Sullivan is an intern with my office, to my right, and Mark Barnhart, Director of the Economic. If it gets too warm, you can also hit the air on the wall units there. So with that, I'll turn things over to you, Mr. Chair, for any welcome remarks.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. Thank you, Mark. So I do want to say thank you for the guests and speakers that are here today, and we look forward to hearing from each of you. We do have a few items on the list that we need to kind of get through. First, if we could have a approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Can I hear a motion for approval? And second?
Second.
All in favor? Excellent. Thank you, Steve.
Aye.
Aye.
Good. Okay, great. So I think with that said, I'm really eager to hear a lot, and I want to leave space for and time for people to speak and have a good conversation about these topics. So if I can actually ask both Nick, I guess it's Nick that will be the primary speaker. John, you're kind of here for support as well.
Correct.
Okay, so. And let's go through that. Let's have a good conversation about that. Can you
Sure.
start right up?
Anne Marie's gonna have, if we could screen share with Anne Marie.
Oh, excellent. Great, Anne Marie. Thank you.
Anne Marie, I think I gave you permission to screen share, so go ahead. Not working, let me know. There you go.
Great. Well, thank you, Mark, Kevin, committee members for having us today. Good morning. My name is Nick Tamburino. I'm a Fairfield resident who has owned and operated a medical marijuana dispensary since the inception of the medical program back in 2014. So I do have the experience. Blue Point Wellness of Westport is my second location. The first location I started in Branford, and in 2019 the state awarded me a second license. We assist many Fairfield residents there. I manage the day-to-day operations. I oversee and troubleshoot all the issues. Having a local operator in town has its advantages. We'd love the opportunity, if it exists, to relocate Blue Point Wellness of Westport to Fairfield in the hopes of converting it to a hybrid retail license. Next slide. Partnerships are everything. Green Thumb, I'm partners with Green Thumb. They have the experience to successfully transition Blue Point Wellness of Westport into a hybrid facility. The partnership began in 2019. Green Thumb has since transitioned 4 states, 12 dispensaries to adult use in that time frame. Within Connecticut alone, Green Thumb Industries operates 3 dispensaries and 1 cultivation facility. So we do have the local experience. Next slide. A little bit about Green Thumb. They were founded in 2014. They have close to 4,000 employees across the country. They have established cannabis brands, and they have 81 open retail facilities. Next one. Here just shows the national presence Green Thumb has. Serves up to 50% of Americans, and it continues to grow. 38 states have enacted medical programs. 20 states adult use. States east of Mississippi, we have been part of the conversion process. Our Med2Rec toolbox is full of contingency plans based upon past learnings, avoiding the pitfalls new operators are often faced with. Next slide. Last, here's about the, the cannabis legalization in Connecticut. Last June, government, Lamont, legalized it. However, sales did not start until this past January. In addition to the adult use retailer, license, the state has issued additional new licenses such as delivery services, micro cultivators, as well as food and beverage licenses. Of course, Blue Point is a current medical facility. We have the ability to convert our license to a hybrid, skip the lottery, and apply to the state for that conversion license. That would enable us to serve both medical and adult use customers. The state does leave it up to the municipality whether they choose to opt in or out. And as you know, Fairfield does have a current moratorium in place, which in other cities, we have assisted in writing new regulations and making text amendments. Next slide. Some quick statistics. Since the January 10th launch, there's currently 12 cannabis retailers serving adult use. It's likely to double in the next few months. Medical sales continue to outpace the adult use volume. The adult use sales has been pretty uneventful. There have not been long lines. There have not been traffic. There's not been any disruption to normal town activities. Not like other states when they rolled it out.
Not a Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, not a Chick-fil-A by any means. Surrounding towns have recently approved dispensaries locally. Stratford, Bridgeport, Norwalk, Stamford, they're all allowing adult use sales there. Next slide. So the state, we do have to preserve the medical program, especially if we do convert to a hybrid license. It's required by the state. So converting our medical license does require us to come up with a preservation plan for our medical community. It has to be approved by the state. We remain patient-focused business. We're dedicated to, creating, express lines for our medical customers, private counseling rooms for our patients, reserved parking, and medical-only hours, especially when we first open. Next slide. So what are the benefits to Fairfield, right? That's the big question here. Number one, jobs. We would plan to increase jobs by increasing our total employee count to 40, specifically targeting local residents. Significant tax revenue. The town receives 3% of sales. So, on a safe estimate, you're looking at $45,000 to $50,000 a month in revenue. And, increased economic activity within the town. Obviously, if people are shopping there, they're going to continue to shop within the town, gas, convenience stores, things like that. Next slide. So these are a few pictures of Westport. One is an aerial view of the entire plaza. We do not have that entire facility. So that's the old Pier 1. It's 1460 Post Road East. We're in the back, the old Cocoa Spa location. It's brightly lit, uplifting in color, private consultation rooms, extremely professional establishment. I would definitely encourage and welcome anyone here to visit the facility if interested. Like I mentioned earlier, we've been operating since 2014.
How much space are you currently in?
We're currently in 4,500 square feet.
You're in 4,500, so
yeah, it's on the bigger side. Mm-hmm. We have plenty of space that we utilize, but it's nice to have that.
And how many people go through the facility every day?
On average, it's about 175
Every day.
customers every day, but it's spread out throughout the day.
What is the breakout by residents? Like, let's just say that's in Westport. How many are Westport residents that are patients or clients? How many are from other?
I would say the majority of our patients are from either Westport, Fairfield, and Norwalk.
Yeah. I'm always curious about, for our collective purpose as a town, outside money is actually better than inside money.
Yep.
Inside money is kind of already captured. It's the outside money that really helps us, and that is I would love a better number on that. I would love to.
Yeah, I could definitely, fine tune that and get you the exact number.
Yeah, I mean, a better approximation would be
Yep.
awesome. That would be a very, important number to hear about, going outside people into town.
On the medical side, what is there a minimum age for medical?
18.
Okay.
They do allow pediatric as well, below 18. However, that requires a little bit, unique process. It requires 2, pediatric physicians to certify.
So you find, since there's universities right here, and are there university students over the age of 18 who are coming in for medical?
Not many.
Okay.
Fair question.
Yeah.
Okay, curious.
That's a legal age for adult use as well?
Adult use is 21.
21. So, medical, they're in medical right now.
Right, correct.
So they would have to be with a script, right?
Right.
Next slide, Emery. You know, we've always been an active member of our hosting community. You know, we've been a positive member to Westport and Fairfield, volunteering and donating to Pink Aid, Operation Hope, and the Westport Animal Shelter. And that pretty much concludes, you know, the presentation. I definitely welcome questions.
Just curious on the 3% tax, is that like a Westport mandate, or is that a state mandate that
That's a state mandate that goes to the municipality. That's a local city tax or town tax.
I would guess the biggest challenge is more so perception. I'm just curious as like how you combat that. If people, I mean, I don't know if there's any statistics out there. I mean, people would say it brings an unsavory element or possible crime or things like that. I'm just saying that would be the argument against. I'm not saying that's my position on it, but I imagine that's what you have to counter.
Yeah, it does not bring in additional crime. If anything, it makes the town safer because of the extensive security requirements for these facilities. Anne-Marie, if you wanted to chime in and add additional statistics if you have, if not.
I'd be happy to. Good morning, Anne-Marie Zamba, Land Use Entitlement Counsel for Green Thumb. Appreciate the opportunity to be here, guys. You know, in terms of impact to community, think about your average ticket size. We're over $100. Can y'all hear me? I just want to make sure. Okay, great. We also see an actual decrease in teen use when you have a regulated facility within your community. So we actually see a ton of benefits within the community, both with the tax revenue as well as impact to the community, beautifying streets, how you can use those funds. And yes, stigma is present, it's here. But with that average ticket size, you know, I think that should help alleviate some of those concerns.
Thank you.
One of the other issues typically is, you know, we're regulating this through land use regulation, through zoning. And so it's sometimes a difficult thing because, you know, what Blue Point's done in Westport, for example, great operator, it seems, and, but, you know, you're regulating the use, not the specific tenant or operator. But there are ways, I suppose, in terms of making sure that we're getting an appropriate, responsible operator in place through land use, and that's part of the crafting of appropriate regulations.
Right.
So I don't know if that's something you wanted to comment on. To how do you keep out the, I guess, to Steve's point, the unsavory,
Yeah, I
you know,
think
operator,
Anne-Marie
inappropriate.
can speak to this. She helped facilitate 2 local towns.
Yeah, so we've worked with Branford and the town of Orange to craft special permit criteria that the first selectman, the town attorney, and the planning and zoning commissions were comfortable with. This included separation distances from protected uses, maybe more stringent than the state requirements. We also limited the number of retailers that could be present within the town. So in both instances, Branford and Orange, it was limited to just 1 retailer. And the commissions felt after that point, they could have a larger operation, a large dispensary count, tried and true operations come in. And after that, they would look at maybe expanding the number of retailers. We're really looking to work cooperatively with Fairfield. We even have some hours of operation regulations in Branford that match the local pharmacy hours because the commission was more comfortable with that. So there are certainly some guidelines that we can put in place to make Fairfield comfortable with the use and the operations as we get started here.
I'm sure that, Anne Marie, you could provide copies of some sample regulations.
Absolutely, be happy to.
How long has Orange and Branford had operations?
Sure. So in Orange, we're actually under construction right now. We anticipate opening in September. Branford launched with the rest of the state on January 10th. And that's been going really well. I would encourage you to, or we would be happy to provide letters of recommendation from the chiefs of police where we operate, which might assuage some of the concerns that y'all have.
Interject one other thing related to those two facilities. Branford was operational for medical. Orange was a new facility, and very similar to Fairfield, they had a moratorium on this use. The town was very willing to listen to us with the presentation and then a detailed review of the security plan, which, by the way, I think is worth mentioning that the director of security for this firm was recruited from Walgreens nationally. So certainly a very buttoned up plan. We met with the chief of police in Orange prior to even taking the zoning application in the town, and he endorsed the plan. And I will tell you offline that prior to us making that presentation, he was very clear with me that he was against the use. But after hearing our presentation, he said, I've really never heard such a detailed plan with security. So at the appropriate time, as it relates to Fairfield, I think it would warrant having that same level of detail be reviewed with the town, whether it be the zoning board, chief of police, or any board that has an interest. It would be, very worthwhile to understand that. Probably gain that same comfort.
Also just curious, you're currently medical only and then looking to expand to have retail. And I saw in the presentation how you addressed the medicals. Is there any other differences, or it just allows you to, open the market that you're serving?
Well, there are certain products that can only be sold under medical. So a hybrid retail would be able to serve both medical and adult use customers. However, adult use customers, there's a limit in terms of what they can buy, the percentage of it, the strength of it, or the potency, which is unrestricted for the medical side.
And then the age differential.
Correct. And the age difference. Medical is 18 years and above, and adult use obviously is 21 years and older.
Do you have a targeted location or locations that you're looking to?
We do.
Can you share that?
Sure, yeah, why not? So the location that we felt was suitable was 1320 Kings Highway Cutoff, which is the former Bank of America Bank branch. The lay of the land with respect to that site is very appropriate for this use because the entrance to the property, the primary entrance, is really closest to the parking, which is the rear portion of the site. So I think that if you were going to structure a deal on a property like that, it would probably be viewed as a very benign use because of the nature of where the traffic flow will exist. The other thing is on that site, we have very strong parking. We have, I believe, 7-to-1 parking ratio. So, and the current setup has 4 drive-through lanes. That's not the intention here, but it is designed with a very easy flow.
You're gonna ask, you don't do drive-through as part of this operation, or?
We have not.
Yeah.
The although,
Do other establishments do drive-through?
I don't think there's a drive-through open right now in Connecticut.
Okay, is that permitted, or is that
Right,
subject?
it is permitted, well, there's nothing that says you can't.
Okay,
Yeah, similar to a pharmacy.
Okay.
I mean, the same concept where you may have medical patients that don't want to get out of a vehicle for various reasons, and or there may be an opportunity to go to the vehicle or potentially invite that as an opportunity at one point. If, in fact is, with 4 drive-through lanes, wouldn't expand to that level, in all likelihood, so we would recapture that as additional parking. Or parking would get even greater than it's suggesting.
During COVID, for our medical customers, we were doing curbside, so that was allowed.
right.
Then this is Adam Robbins, just to chime in real quick, maybe to alleviate some of the concerns from the board. I know Chick-fil-A was brought up earlier and queuing into the street. If we were to engage in some sort of drive-through model in Fairfield, I just want to make sure that it's known that it's for pre-orders only. So the patient or the customer would order their product online through our website, and then they would pick it up, very much akin to the pharmacy pickup window. So there's not a menu board where people are ordering and making changes to their orders. It's truly akin to the curbside pickup that Nick was just mentioning as well.
Other questions from members of the commission?
Just one, I mean, it's more a curiosity question. Is it a cash only business? Because I know it's still, marijuana is federally still recognized as a narcotic. So there's usually, you don't have banking associated with it.
We have not, right now, it's not just cash only. We take ATM or debit cards as well as cash.
Okay.
Who's the competition in Connecticut, and how does that kind of play out town by town? In other words, is there a limit to how many of these dispensaries there can be in Connecticut, and how far apart are these?
There are. So there's a lottery system with Connecticut. Currently, the lottery system is closed. Over the next year or two, we expect to see probably 30 to 40 establishments open. Not all of them will be retail. Some of those will be cultivators, some will be delivery services, but up to 30 new licenses have been given out.
Is there a distance regulation in terms of spacing or anything like that?
There is not. There is some distance restrictions if you are the same owner. You create these joint ventures, or if you current license, which is allowed. Those have to be 25-mile separation.
So if you did come into Fairfield, what would happen to the Westport location?
We would move that, so that would be medical, that would be our hybrid store. So we would retain our current medical population as well as serve the adult use 21 over. Right.
You shut down the Westport
Yep.
location. The state has, I'm sorry, go on.
Hey, hi, I'm Matt. I'm just wondering, if the town was able to enact something that allowed this, what's your timeline? How long do you estimate it would take before your doors reopen?
Emery, if you want to speak on, the actual time frame for Orange or?
Sure. So typically we would be looking at a text amendment and then an SUP process or a special permit process, roughly 3 to 4 months there, get into building permit, and then we have a 12-week construction schedule for these builds. So likely year end.
And what other, is this the first town body you're meeting with, or what other steps have you taken with Fairfield, if any?
You all are the first town body we're meeting with, and we're excited for the opportunity to be here.
Cool, thanks.
I think they've been reaching out to different parties to have a educational session such as this, informational session, and so we're happy with the cooperation of the chair and vice chair to host this.
I think we're quiet, we're thinking, actually. I think that's what's going on. The state mandates 3%, to the town. Would you be open for more? Volunteering?
You know, we try to,
You would be a premier location.
yeah. But here, we're able to contribute in other ways, right? Volunteer, donations, things like that.
Mhm.
Kevin, we could ask Donut Inn across the street to kick in a percentage of their increase.
Actually, that brings up.
And back to Chick-fil-A, if we knew about this before Chick-fil-A, we probably would have, allowed the drive-through there, right?
That brings up an interesting question about,
You weren't voting on it.
operational. Is it where people come in, they buy and then they leave, or do they buy and stay? Is there like a lounge area? How does that work?
There is no lounge area. Pretty much people come in, they purchase, and they leave.
So square footage wise, you don't need a whole lot, right? I mean,
You don't.
Yeah.
But for a place that you're gonna do hybrid, you do want separation, right? You want, some private environment for the medical customers as well as the retail.
And you want presentation of professionalism, so, I mean, that you're staging it in a good way, and of course, it has vault already, so that's a good thing for what, it's got the drive-through, it's got the location, it's got the vault.
And just by comparison, the Orange facility happened to be a previous bank.
Yeah.
So we were set up with, very good, traffic opportunities in terms of multiple curb cuts and easy flow with good parking.
I haven't followed it very closely, but I'm aware partly through next door posts that there was a lot of opposition in Westport. I think ongoing people feel, they're not happy with cannabis in their town. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with people's opposition there and what the current state of that is?
Look, we haven't had any issues in the town since opening. There has been no opposition since opening. However, before we opened, there was opposition against medical there. It took us a year and a half to get approval there, but we did it, and we operate a very professional environment. There's no disruption to traffic, town activities. We have a great rapport with the police department, and, I think they're happy that we're there now, and that they are not for adult use.
Right.
They said that years ago when we got approved for medical only. We had a meeting with them a month or two ago just to see, get a temperature on where they are, and they're strongly opposed to it, as I expected.
Do you know for specific reasons or just their, historic opposition to cannabis?
Not sure.
All of the above, I'd imagine.
But my understanding
No
is
comment.
it relates back to the original approval at the state level, having nothing to do with this operator nor the operation.
Well, we have some of those same issues here.
Well, you're, at the end of the day, we know that, operations of all shapes and sizes and business types, are, never likely to have 100% support anywhere. So it's just about, again, managing the process properly and knowing that we have a well-run operation, and we can look at these other facilities as examples.
And I think having a local operator there involved, brings a different perspective, right? I would be there running it day to day. I feel like it's gonna be ran differently if someone else from, out of state came in or an inexperienced operator.
Mm-hmm. No denying that if you had if you're gonna have one, and eventually a moratorium can be rolled, right? I mean, eventually, you're best to have a premier. You're best, just get the best you can, and frankly, charge as much as you can charge, because that, in that sense alone, it helps set a new tone with who's coming in and how often they're coming in. So.
Curious, is pricing regulated or is that?
No, it's not.
You've mentioned.
Competition that drives that.
Sure.
And to your point about the moratorium, just for clarity, Orange had a moratorium.
Sure.
They lifted specifically after hearing our plan. So they were very comfortable with it.
You mentioned transferring your license to the new location. Are there hurdles to that? Is that as simple as filing a form?
Yeah, it's an application to the state. It's pretty simple.
you mentioned Bridgeport, they've been approved?
Bridgeport is.
Bridgeport has approved.
Is there anything going on there at this point?
Isn't it? It's not open yet. It
Or
will be.
It will, there is one already
Yeah.
coming. Do you know the location of that?
Can't remember.
I'm
Yeah,
just wondering if you're gonna be on Kings Highway, which is not too far from Bridgeport, how that would, set up as a.
Kings Highway is, right in the circle here, I mean, it's.
Oh,
Correct.
you're talking about this end?
Yeah.
Correct, yes, across from
Oh,
McDonald's.
here.
Yeah.
That's the.
Oh, over here.
Right.
Okay, I was-
Plenty
I was
plenty
thinking-
of fast food options there for.
Right.
I wasn't gonna go there.
The location though, for clarity in the Bridgeport, that is approved is on the, easterly side of Commerce Drive, almost where it meets State Street.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
You said Stratford has one,
Correct.
in the works as well.
right, and that one is on Main Street,
Fairly distant,
Yeah.
right.
so. Anyone else have any questions? Very enlightening.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. I
Thank you very
appreciate your time and the opportunity.
Great, thanks.
Good.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Sure.
On this.
Thank you.
You're regularly in Westport location there?
Oh, yeah, every day. I'm going in shortly.
Okay.
And we're both town residents,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
we're happy to coordinate other meetings and, any patients we can.
Sure, as you mentioned, Nick, if people wanna do a site visit. I'm sure
Absolutely,
we're
sure.
happy to
You just need a
accommodate.
24-hour notice. I'll
Yep.
get a visitor request and
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
That's interesting.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank
guys.
you, guys.
All right, great.
Okay, well, just a couple other reports today.
wanna do a.
Yep. Wanted to give you guys a brief update. Thanks, John.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, appreciate it. My pleasure.
See you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Give you a quick update on, outdoor dining. As you know, the Planning and Zoning Commission, after a couple attempts, did enact, new regulations, with respect to outdoor dining, expanding the footprint, allowable without need for creating additional parking, not as much as we would hope, but, now, restaurants can create outdoor dining spaces up to 400 square feet without the need for providing additional off-street parking. They made some other changes that we had requested, such as limiting the seasonality and as well as percentage that had to be, portioned between indoor space. There's no requirement, anymore. And, so we've spent some time since that, commission enacted those regulations, to get the word out, do outreach to, restaurants that had availed themselves of the temporary permits under COVID. We've had a number of, of course, most of the activity has taken place within the last several months as the weather has improved and people are wanting to use outdoor dining spaces. Now we have a flurry of restaurants that have sought to permit, formalize their prior temporary arrangements. So I included in your packet, thanks to Jared's good work, a list of those applications that have been approved to date. It does require a zoning compliance application, but that doesn't necessitate a public hearing. You just make a staff report. To date, all of the applications have been approved. We've had several that have had to go to the zoning board of appeals for a variance, because they're either larger than the 400 square feet allowed, or, in the case of, for example, Little Pub, their outdoor dining space takes up existing parking, which needs. We've had, 6 restaurants approved to date. We have 1 in the pipeline that's hopefully going to be approved, or at least considered at their June 13th meeting. That's, Metcha Noodle. And we're continuing to do outreach to restaurants to make sure that if they want to keep, these outdoor dining spaces, that they go through the process, get them finalized, now, because the time is right. It's fresh. Memory of COVID is fresh in their minds. We haven't had any disruptions or any issues operationally, during COVID with respect respect to these outdoor dining spaces and lack of parking, the perceived lack of parking. So, again, we've been emphasizing that if you're gonna do this, you know, the time is right to do it now. So, we'll continue to do outreach, and I'll keep you guys posted.
Is there a cutoff period for them to apply?
There isn't, but I suspect, and I've talked to planning and zoning staff, they haven't had a heavy footprint, regulatory footprint at the moment, going out and done any inspections, but we all know, there are restaurants that aren't yet permitted, that continue to have outdoor dining spaces. At some point, I'm sure they will get a visit from zoning enforcement staff and told, hey, you're in violation. So we're trying to avoid that as best we can. So we know a couple, we've talked to not just the restaurant owner, but the property owner, and said, hey, you know, we're aware of this, just
Get it done.
get it done.
Yeah, it's good.
Paperwork.
Exactly. It is paperwork, there is a fee, unfortunately, but it's small in the grand scheme of things.
How much is the fee, do you know?
It's, the application fee is $160, and then to record the compliance, the actual notice of decision, which is recommended. So it's $240, you're in. If you have to go to ZBA, that's another $260 on top of that, but.
One table of four.
But,
Yeah, exactly.
again, it's not a huge, it shouldn't be cost prohibitive for folks in this industry.
No.
No, they get bigger problems with it,
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's where we are on outdoor dining.
Okay.
Development sites, we don't really have, you know, activity has definitely slowed down in terms of applications pending before the various land use boards. I think what you're seeing is, you know, some effect, from, you know, a larger issue in terms of cost of money, for example.
Yeah.
That's definitely having an effect in terms of people moving ahead with, as quickly as they may have. So we're gonna see, and I think we were due for a reset anyway. I think if we looked at our commercial building activity over the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of institutional commercial building activity, including on campuses at Fairfield and Sacred Heart. And you're seeing a little bit of retrenchment as people take a pause. So I suspect that's likely to be the case. We're continuing to work with a developer of Fairfield Metro, Accurate Builders, on his application, which we anticipate him filing within the next several months, a formal application. They did go through an informal, non-binding informal concept review with planning and zoning, which I thought was well received. Similarly, we have that same process with 81 Black Rock Turnpike, where the developer there, Post Road Residential, was able to secure text amendment changes that facilitate their proposed development, but they haven't made a formal application for a special permit yet, which I anticipate again in several months. So with the exception of those two large sites, and, you know, part of that is positioning those developments such that when economic conditions improve, they're ready to kind of go. In the case of Fairfield Metro, the crossings, they're already under construction for the first building, and they want to be in a position to move once that building is nearing. So that's where we are on other development sites. I don't know if folks have other questions. I mean, we have talked.
I was gonna raise one,
Go
just
ahead.
one thing. I mean, everyone's favorite topic, the 830G, but development they want to put in over in Marlboro, like the 40 units, which is
Berkeley Road, right?
Berkeley, thank you. Which is so absurdly on that neighborhood. Like, I drive through there and you can't get through there now, and to put that unit in there, but just made me realize, I was talking over with someone, they're going to put in, you know, they're get by with 10% of affordable housing, but they're adding 30 more units. It keeps moving the goalpost every time you get these 10% in, because there's now 30 more units in the housing inventory that we have to try and get to that 10%. So like every time someone goes through this process, like they're not making a dent into the affordable housing stock that we have. What they're doing.
Well, they are, but there is these, I mean, first, for an 830G application, they have to do 30%. So 15% at or below 80% AMI, 15% at or below 60% AMI. Now, you're right that the formula to apply for and receive a moratorium is based on the total number of housing units in town as of the last decennial census. So over time, yes, if you increase the numerator, I guess, it does, or denominator, I can't remember which one, but it does have that effect. But it's a little bit diluted by virtue of the fact that you're taking it based on the last census. And when we look at the number of housing units created, the difference between the 2010 and the preliminary numbers for 2020, it really hasn't changed the numbers that significantly. But I think the larger issue for us, I think, that we need to wrestle with at some point, although it may be beyond our life expectancy or our time on this board, is that these are restrictions for only 40 years. So at the end of the 40-year restriction period, you know, they convert to market. So you're constantly then in this mode where you have to create new affordable units. And so there needs to be, and I think the Affordable Housing Committee is wrestling with this issue, how can we permanently restrict these units or create a mechanism by which we can extend the time duration of the restriction period beyond the 40-year term? Because otherwise, we're just constantly on this hamster wheel. That's what I think we want to avoid. And again, 40 years is like this long horizon, but then, you know, New York State has had similar restrictions in place, and, you know, then they see things coming off restriction, and then, you know, they're back to square one. So, you know, we want to avoid that as best we can. But you're right, I mean, Berkeley Road, they closed the hearing on Berkeley Road. There was, I thought, really great testimony from the neighborhood. In the grand scheme of things, though, does it rise to the level of a public health safety concern, or not even a concern, but documented issue from a public health safety standpoint that outweighs the need for affordable housing? That's going to be a tough one for the zoning commission to adjudicate, but they'll have to come to.
Hey, Reed, how many off-street parking spaces for the 40 units?
They have just over one parking space per unit, so I think they're, I don't know off the top, I think it's right, 50 parking spaces, so it's not out of character for some of the other 830G applications, but I think some of the testimony from the neighborhood was, hey, this is a, you know, heavily congested area already, narrow streets, on-street parking, you know, to the extent to which they can't manage parking on site, that it goes onto the street, it makes things worse.
And then how many bedrooms?
It's a combination of 1 and 2 and studio, but I can get the actual.
And that's in there too, and that's part of the formula. They wanna do 2 bedrooms to 1 unit.
I mean, this is
That's maximum.
this was an area of town that already is to some extent affordable.
Yeah.
And so I think part of the issue too is we're taking, some maybe not restricted, but otherwise affordable housing stock, tearing that down and then replacing it with an apartment building, which is, you know, not consistent with the character of that.
I mean, that is, you can't get down that road as it is now. I mean, there's landscapers that live down there with their trucks, they park on the street overnight, and I can't even imagine, that will be an abomination there.
I don't disagree, I'm just not sure that the zoning commission will have enough evidence on the record to hang their hat on, or at least they may certainly attempt to do that, but the question is whether it would be sustained. So that would be the issue. Hopefully, you know, we're closing in on the necessary points we need for their first moratorium based on projects already in development. But until we actually apply for and receive that, we're gonna be at jeopardy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect us to make that application until are in the pipeline, but we're closely monitoring that.
Speaking of appeal, is there anything new on the, is it Umpqua Road or next to the community theater?
Yeah, that's still on appeal. I mean, there have been discussions amongst the applicant and zoning commission to see if there's a a way to narrow their differences and mediate that, but I don't think that they've, achieved that at this point.
It's been accomplished, yeah, okay.
Other questions on, other sites? We are talking to the folks that own both the Bed Bath & Beyond site and the Exide Battery site too. We've had quite a bit of interest on both, but nothing definitive.
Just out of curiosity, where is, South Benton and Post Road, old gas station?
So you may have seen.
It's growing again.
Oh,
You may have seen,
Yeah.
So you may have seen some construction equipment on
I
site.
did, but I thought maybe they were.
They are planning to do some, that site, believe it or not, is actually in a flood zone.
Yeah.
And so they're planning to do some on-site detention and some other work, site development work to facilitate a new tenant, but they don't have it. I mean, there was a letter of intent that was issued to a tenant, but, at this point, no lease yet. So I've had a couple meetings with other prospective tenants, and so I think there's, a good, interest in the site. Again, we're hoping that it's not something, there's definitely interest from folks that want to create, a gas station or a Quickie Mart type operation there, but it's not on our.
It's no longer reasonable to have this.
yeah, no.
It's very small.
I can imagine a bank branch going in there or something.
We're not seeing a whole lot of activity. We've got a couple, as evidenced by our prior conversation, we have a couple, vacant bank branches too, so.
Yeah, right.
As they go through consolidation within that.
Yeah.
Okay, how about, did Beverly leave any items that
She didn't. I did pass out, for those of you who are online, I'm sorry, but I did pass out a most recent, tourism map. We just did a reprint, and a refresh of our tourism map. We've got 50,000 copies, which we have a distribution agreement with a company that provides it, to 250 plus locations in the tri-state area in terms of hotels and railroad stations and things like that, as well as to our tourism partners here in town. I think all of you have seen probably our press release on the marketing grant. We've received and processed and approved our first 2 applications under that. So we're providing, 50% reimbursement up to $450 to produce a series of promotional video, for service and retail establishments primarily. And then we have a couple events that Mary Alice and her team are working on. Make Music Day on the 21st of June. We've got, great, turnout so far. I think 20 plus, venues already booked, which is more than what we had last year, and I think, there's 40 performers to date, which again is more than what we've had in prior years, so it continues to grow. Now, there was a newspaper article about Make Music Day Connecticut, and Fairfield was, profiled within that article. So again, we're one of the preeminent locations within the state, and I think that's, credit to Mary Alice and Lou Hoyman from Fairfield Theater Company. That's on the 21st of June, and then Sidewalk Sale is on July 15th, which again, Mary Alice is working primarily with your sponsors, and then, get word out to, potential vendors, that want that. I'll, answer any other questions, but I don't think Beverly has anything other than the upcoming, at the end of June, she has a, dinner reception, and they're gonna, recognize, I think she spoke to it at the last meeting, Fairfield and Sacred Heart, their economic impact.
Does anyone else have any, items that they want to bring up?
Just out of curiosity, can you tell us who's going into the Greenfield Hill Market yet?
Well, just, there is an applicant on the building permit. I don't know that they're, it doesn't really tell you a whole lot. I've heard that they're affiliated with, the Reading, Roadhouse, group, but, I don't know that for sure. But it's a nondescript name on the application. We haven't, talked to them specifically about that, but it is taking time, taking a while to develop, and I think that at this point, the veterinary hospital will be open.
All right, thanks.
So, so maybe we should talk about, the upcoming meetings for July and for August. Mark and I were having a discussion, Steve, I didn't get a chance to talk to you about it, but I'm thinking that maybe for July, we maybe change up a time, and maybe do like an early evening somewhere else, and maybe, have some beverages along with it, make it kind of a lighter, meeting, and then to do, August off, and then we can get back into swing of things in September. Yeah, any feedback on that?
I think that sounds great. August, I'm probably traveling that first week anyway, so I would not be available.
Right.
We usually take one of the meetings in summer off, and August is usually the one that we
That is
decide
correct.
not to.
Yeah.
In terms of our meeting with Bigelow Tea, I think that'll likely be, I've talked to the plant manager and checked Cindy's schedule, and I think we're on for September.
That's great. So, if everyone's okay with it, maybe Steve and Mark and I can come up with an idea for July and get, the information out to everyone. And, otherwise, we're in good shape. What I'd like everyone to do is, with Nick and Blue Point and with John Angel, I'd like everyone to kind of think about what you just heard, and I actually would like to talk more about it. I will tell you that I am no fan of cannabis. I just am not. But having said that, the realization that it's here and we might have an opportunity to capture something good out of it if we get in front of this, might not be a bad idea. I know there was an immediate pushback on it, but I got to tell you, maybe one of the areas is maybe to create some kind of town tax or something of sort that is beyond that 3%, that could then really be harnessed to economic development or something that will be an additional driver that offsets any negativity that might be coming of it. If it's going to show up at our door anyways, let's try and harness it. Is my idea.
I'm not sure that there is a regulatory authority to do that, but if it's a voluntary agreement.
It's a voluntary. That's if they're a single, if they are given a sole position on this, if they're the only one that is allowed to do it, and then maybe you step it off where if we turn out and we allow 2 or 3 in the future, then that voluntary pay gets diluted.
Yeah.
Do it. There's an opportunity there that potentially, I just would hate to see us have this moratorium that the money is so great that they're gonna push in the legal tenacity, their legal tenacity, and roll us over, or make it an expensive opportunity for us to hold a moratorium. So I might be thinking wrong about it, but I just think that something is going to happen. We should try and think about it.
Well, I think the other issue that we have to wrestle with is, again, our primary mechanism by which we regulate any business is through our land use regulations,
Right.
which is not the most perfect
No.
solution to this.
Right.
And even there, they're pitching, this particular business and this particular operator who lives in town, but there's nothing in our regulations that regulates the tenant or the business owner. So you can't necessarily say the owner has to reside in Fairfield, nor does so you may have a comfort factor with this particular business, or operator based on their track record, proven track record.
And
so the question is, how do you craft appropriate regulations to do that in a land use, paradigm?
I do think though, like the negative stuff is really purely speculative perception. I don't think there's any data that shows that you are attracting elements of crime or unsavory people, or anything like that.
No.
Well, that's true of a lot of things.
Yeah. So
So we have to still deal with people's perceptions, though, that's the thing.
So I'm
That-
gonna ask,
Yeah,
I'm gonna ask the commissioners just to think about it a little bit, and maybe in our informal, meeting, we can talk about it some more, next month.
Maybe they can
Okay.
provide samples. No, just kidding.
I'm glad I'm not the one who said that.
I know, it's all right. We all thought it.
We all thought that,
Right.
but no, somebody had to say
Right,
it.
Mark brought up the munchies, we knew that was gonna, we knew
Matt
someone was
started with the
gonna,
donuts.
we knew someone was gonna say that. All right,
Uh,
I think our meeting is done, I wanna thank everyone for being here, is there a motion to close the meeting?
I'll make the motion.
A motion.
Second.
Second? Excellent, all in
Thank you,
favor?
guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Have a
good meeting.
great month.